Well, hello, that's me again. Today is the April 7th. It is Sunday, and some food for thought in conclusion of this weekend for you guys. And truth is, it's just a matter of time and effort, and my subscribers. I could have been doing this for, every day. The problem is, of course, I also have my life to live, and the situation is developing in such vein and with such dynamics that you can really just sit in front of the camera and speak about everything as it unfolds, because what we live in is unprecedented historically time, probably matched by the approach to the World War II. And it doesn't mean that we will have World War III in general understanding of the war, like two huge or several huge state actors pummeling each other. But we certainly are in World War III in a different, so to speak, expression of the warfare, much of it which people will call with this fashionable moniker the hybrid warfare. But things are developing with such speed, it's just unbelievable. And again, I'm not going to talk too much about what my friends tell me, because some of it is just wow, and but let's start with the thing which absolutely shocking not in its being wrong, shocking in its being right and being called out. And I want to start with some, I don't know, listen, I also, like everybody, I browse internet, I stumble upon things, look them up and say, hey, this is good. Plus my wonderful people who visit my blog and talk on my discussion boards, they also sometimes provide wonderful pointers, so to speak, and they act as the basically journalists, providing some kind of the reporting. Well, this is wonderful. You go in and say, oh my gosh, how could I have missed that? And I use this. And let me get you to this thing. I don't know who this guy Santiago Priego is. I assume by what he writes, and he has a Substack, whatever that thing is, and I think so he's connected somehow to this code writers, what they call software engineers in Silicon Valley or something like that. And he wrote a couple of days ago this interesting thing, and he's talking about the vibe shift. So this wouldn't have happened a year ago. He's talking about some guy, CEO or whatever, the manager of some software organization, who said, to go everybody and shove up their, behinds all those DEI things, diversity, equity, whatever, inclusion garbage, complete garbage. And he's talking about, even in this primarily liberal or libertarian sometimes, although they are obviously on a little bit different spectrums of their political views, of these guys who operate in the so-called IT industry. And he's talking about the vibe shift I'm talking about is the speaking of previously unspeakable truth, the noticing of previously suppressed facts. I'm talking about the give you feel when the walls of propaganda and bureaucracy start to move as you push. The very visible dust kicked up in the air as experts and fact checkers scramble to hold on to the decaying institutions. The cautious but electric rush of energy when dictatorial edifices designed to stifle innovation, enterprise, and thought are exposed or toppled. Fundamentally, the vibe shift is a return to a championing of reality, a rejection of the bureaucratic, the cowardly, the guilt-driven, a return to greatness, courage, and joyous ambition. Well, I agree with him to a certain degree. I would still put under doubts, his views in terms of how it applies to Silicon Valley. But yeah, it's not just about only bureaucracy. It is about cowardice. It is about people being obviously blackmailed essentially into submission, because nobody wants to lose a good job. But at some point of time, people have to make a choice. Otherwise, they will be absolutely, steamrolled by the current thing. And since we're talking, and he is talking about this vibe shift, here's a vibe shift for you, and this is as vibey shifty is as it comes. Yesterday, none other than Mr. Medvedev, and again, I want to stress, think about it. Mr. Medvedev is the former president of Russia, the deputy chair of the Security Council, and with a high degree of probability, next president of Russia. So here it is. Medvedev named the organizers and sponsor of the terrorist attack in Crocus. Pay attention how it is expressed. It is not attacks. It is the singular attack. The real organizers of the terrorist attack in Crocus City Hall are still hiding in the shadow of ISIS, banned in Russia, recognized as terrorist. But the traces lead to Ukraine. It is obvious that French President Emmanuel Macron and top officials of NATO countries are sponsors of the terrorist attack, singular, said Deputy Chairman of Security Council Dmitry Medvedev. And he talking about this garbage, of course, of this ISIS, Velayat, Khorasan BS, you know what. He's talking about they are not religious fanatics. They are absolute thugs who have been bought by somebody's money, and evidently now traces begin to show also to France. And that also exposes a little bit some truth behind Le Cornu's call to Mr. Shoigu, who didn't want even to answer the phone. French are afraid, so is Macron, and they better be, because obviously when you have essentially one of the leaders of the nuclear superpower pointing finger at you and telling your president is the sponsor of the terrorism, and this is not some president of some God knows where the country somewhere in the middle of Atlantic, island country. No, we are talking about France, which is one of the main drivers of this insanity in the with the support of Ukraine, and as it turns now, being supporter of the and sponsor of the terrorism on Russian soil. Just to add to this, now you can easily find it in any normal alternative media, actually, the photos of the American mercenaries leading the attack on Belgorod villages, killing civilians. Well, what do you know? So we obviously have the basically masks being, pulled out from the faces of those people who are doing this. And they should be afraid, believe me. This is not really some kind of game. And this is not good cop, bad cop. Only West plays this stupid game and think that it is effective. It doesn't work. It works only on some, I don't know, a crappy little, crap hole somewhere. But, I mean, with Russia, this is a wrong scale of a country and people to do that. And now when we have this, I mean, the whole pile, the heap of the confirmation of the direct involvement of NATO, what can I say? So, as Mr. Medvedev stated, which is absolutely shocking, they cannot find behind their immunities. Exactly. Guess what? At some point of time, Macron will be either overthrown or just, not re-elected or what have you, whatever the hell the French constitution says. I don't really care about the election process, which is, of course, this kabuki theater, nothing more than that. And, well, guess what? The guy who ordered this, you have to really think twice, what are you doing? So, and this is not just it. And the fact that we are experiencing absolute panic in the West, it was very interestingly put out with a wonderful meme, obviously stunningly beautiful Paige Spiraniak in it, and of course Western experts try to predict Russia's next move. You can quote me, and you can refer to me on this. Those experts, most of them are shysters. They have no toolkit. They don't have background and academic credentials, so to speak, to really understand what Russia's next move will be. So they just, go out and continue to write articles. Hey, come on. I mean, this, whatever her name, Isabel Khurshudyan, I mean, she needs to eat too, right? She has to write something to be paid, and there you go. She is in the Washington Post yesterday. With no way out of worsening war, Zelensky options look bad or worse. As Russia steps up airstrikes and once again advances on the battlefield in Ukraine, made more than 2 years into its bloody invasion, there is no end to the fighting in sight, and President Volodymyr Zelensky options for what to do next, much less how to win the war, range from bad to worse. Well, yes, finally, 2 years after that, they begin to understand things because, as I already stated, most of the American or Western experts went to the School of Advanced Military Studies from the 1970 Oscar-winning movie Patton. They think that they calculate success in just simply number of taken villages or cities and the number of the kilometers you cover and you get under your control. People do not understand the war. They have never been taught properly. And so what can I say? Now that Russia is moving to the west, capturing more and more territories, Kharkov is being evacuated, quote unquote, not just evacuated, they're just running away, primarily the type of people who hate Russian gods, obviously, and some brainwashed people with the propaganda, which is supported and sponsored by including not just Ukrainian media, but Western media too, who have been actually following Ukrainian propaganda. They never reported anything from Russia properly. They merely just were copying and pasting whatever the BS Kiev regime was pouring on them because, well, many of them are tacit supporters of this Nazi regime and they hate Russian gods. So, and as the result, now suddenly, when Russia begins to move and cover those kilometers, taking each day, it's village after village after village, and Russians are deciding now what to do. Maybe to collapse the front right now, maybe wait for a little bit longer. So they begin to write about that there are no good options. Well, you know what? I have to go back and quote myself from a year and a half and a year ago that there was never good options because no matter what NATO would do, no matter what NATO would provide to Ukraine, it won't make any difference. And today we have the situation with the inside Chasiv Yar, we know the, Belogorovka, and all kinds of things of this nature, and yeah, Kharkov is being evacuated. I wonder why. So, and yeah, there is another bunch of the air defense complexes, SMTPs, NASAMs, which have been destroyed by Russians who obviously, as you might understand, yet again, for the last 2 years, ran out of the missiles and all those drones, of course, they love to call it them Iranian drones, but of course they are Russian drones. But hey, whatever, propaganda has to live somehow. They need to also earn money there, so to speak, poor existence. And if that hasn't been enough, so we have this, look at this. She is in Beijing. And she is in Beijing, evidently is multi-day visit. And look at this. This is a woman who wouldn't know the difference between cannon and missile, okay? So she wouldn't understand how the CNC, computer numerical control machines work or what robotics is. But guess what? American officials claim that Chinese firms are selling tools and equipment to the Russian military. First, they cannot sell it to the Russian military. It is just merely the cooperation, which was happening actually for many years now. And China was selling, among many other things to Russia, it was selling obviously some equipment. But evidently Janet Yellen doesn't understand. She doesn't. She really has no clue. She basically operates from whatever the prompts are being provided for her staff, which is also ignorant about some kind of economy which doesn't exist in the real world. She actually runs virtual economy. And so U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has threatened Chinese companies with consequences. That's the only thing the United States does. It just threatens with consequences. If they supply parts of equipment to the Russian military. During a multi-day trip to Beijing, Yellen also accused China of saturating global market with cheap goods. Well, la-di-da, I mean, come on. Isn't that called the competition? So yeah, China saturates global markets with cheap goods. And the United States played a decisive role in making it so in 2000 with the House Resolution 4444 of sending China to, guess what, World Trade Organization and removing all barriers from actually capital and expertise flowing out of the United States. And you know what, let's face it, China's success in many respects is financed by the United States, by people who really don't care about Americans, American nation, or whatever's left of it, and so on. So Secretary Yellen emphasized that companies, including those in People's Republic of China, must not provide material support for Russia's war against Ukraine, including support to the Russian defense industrial base. So she talks about significant consequences, actually. And here comes something which many of my Chinese friends will not find very thrilling to hear. Yes, while China definitely reduces its dependence on the United States, but for now, they still are, you know, very much connected to the United States, and not only through their financial dependence. All the yuan is growing as part of the international accounts in trade. The issue here is that obviously there is still a gigantic market in the United States, and plus we cannot deny this. We cannot close our eyes on that for anybody who studies China or talks to the experts. I'm no expert sinologist, believe me. But in this particular case, I express somebody's opinion, but somebody's opinion who I know are real, well, sinologists. People speak Chinese language, they lived in China, visited China, talked to Chinese people, and interacted with them very often. And they say the corruption in the Communist Party of China is pretty significant, especially the pro-Western, pro-liberal wing, which is called Komsomol, especially from the southern provinces. And yeah, this is a problem, okay? That is why Russia, while obviously having extraordinarily good relations with Chinese leadership, and of course Chinese state corporations, that means state-owned corporations. Private business from China is not that good for Russia, believe me. They do behave themselves as shills for the Western liberal order, and that's what Janet Yellen was talking about. So it's a long way, so to speak, to the top if you want to rock and roll with China. And so in this particular case, yes, Mr. Putin and Mr. Xi are really good friends. Both Mr. Xi and Mr. Putin understand the issues, and that is why people have to keep in mind that primarily this cooperation happens primarily, not exclusively, but primarily on the level of the Chinese state-owned corporations and banks. The rest of them, they do not want those secondary sanctions, and they refuse to cooperate with Russia. So this is the reality. But obviously, at some point of time, something has to give. And what has to give? I don't think so that Mr. Xi, he is a very smart man. And obviously, he makes sure that there will be the continuation of his policies, but there are problems, there are struggles there, because obviously there is a rampant corruption in China. It is there, you cannot deny it, despite the fact of the outstanding achievements of China in economic and scientific field. So it's a huge country, diverse, and it's obviously difficult to control it. So there you go. It's in no way diminishes or, you know, humiliates China, but it's just the way it is. It is the same as the complete corruption of American politics. I mean, you cannot deny it. It's there. It's fact. You know, you go to the Capitol Hill and everybody, practically everybody bought by somebody, by some lobby, by some interest group. Which brings us actually a little bit more into the, how to say it, technical thing. We already know this. This is not the first time happened. Something happened to the Western hardware. But in this particular case, it's not just hardware. It is obviously also the issue of the software. We are talking about Danish frigate Cat's Red Sea mission short after technical issues. These are naval news which report that, and the Danish contribution to Operations Prosperity Guardian, God, who comes up with those titles, in the Red Sea has been cut short by approximately 2 weeks, following issues with the air defense aboard the frigate HDMS Iver Huitfeldt during an engagement of a group of 15 Houthi drones on March 9. So yeah, the Houthis sent drones, and it is failure, but look at this, there are actually the details of this failure are just absolutely mind-boggling. Defense News was first to report, blah, 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 that included the frigate being unable to use its ESSM, its War Sea Sparrow missile, air defense missiles during half an hour, as well as up to half of the rounds fired from the twin 76mm guns detonating too early and close to the ship. Despite these issues, the frigate managed to down 4 of the incoming drones, with the rest being handled by other vessels. Following 30-minute reboot of the air defense system, the ESSM was back online, and 3 missiles as well as 50 to 100 rounds of 76mm ammunition was eventually used to bring down the 4 drones during the engagement, in which in total lasted about an hour. A significant part of the fallout of what quickly is shaping to be a moderate scandal was somebody, describing issues which have been known with sensors, combat management system, and the 76mm rounds, and noting that the significant increase in consumption of rounds would seriously reduce the combat capability. So, and yeah, this is politics right now, and you know what? How many occasions need to be listed to prove the actual absolutely dismal performance, dismal record of pretty much all NATO weapon systems? They are no good for real war. And the question here, of course, yes, it is primarily the issue of combat informational control system. Make no mistake, things do go out. But then, of course, we have this Sea Sparrow. If anybody wants to know what is ESSM is, it's a World Sea Sparrow missile. It's development of the older Sparrow. They allegedly can protect ship from attacking missiles and aircraft, especially they could be quad packed, and I believe that the Danish frigate has 32 cells of Mark 41 VLS. So, and evidently they couldn't use even that thing. And yeah, it says that, yeah, it can really, make the difference. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so far what Houthis were doing, they were attacking actually everything with rather primitive systems, including those cheap drones, and you can really oversaturate the air defense. That is why this Prosperity Guardian is a complete failure, and actually most of their valuable assets have been pushed out to the ocean, because this is the range which allows them to operate more or less safely, because obviously you don't want to get involved into the coastal combat. And if you take a look attentively at the price of this unit of ESSM, almost $2 million, really? A missile which was supposed to shoot down something like what, $5,000 drone, slow one? This is everything you need to know about the air defenses there. And if, just to kind of play it on the contrast, is this, if you look attentively, look at this. Oh yeah, this is nice looking frigate. They are nice looking ships and all that, with all those, AISA, just kind of Aegis type, a Spy 1D rather, type, radars, so yeah, it's cool, it's nice. But here's what we have in terms of news. In the contrast, look at this. Yeah, today, in the zone of special military operation, the Panzer M naval air defense systems were used for the first time, said Oleg Ryazantsev, general director of the high precision complexes holding the ship while on combat duty, hit Storm Shadow missiles. That is, we can talk about the first effective successful use of the Panzer M serial complex, the channel interlocutor stated. Well, Panzer is as you can see yourself, this is your type of the Project 22800 Karakurt with this Panzer, as you can see yourself, near the stern. And now it has been proven to be extremely effective against low-flying Storm Shadows. And this is just one of the occasions. And while there were some PR and rather sensitive losses of primarily old ships and one new ship in the Black Sea Fleet, the main core of the Black Sea Fleet, which are, of course, the carriers of the Caliber missiles, Onyx missile, not Onyx, pardon me, probably Zircon missiles very soon. And now with the Panzer, they operate very effectively, and they continue, like yesterday, to provide salvos from under the sea or from the surface of the sea against military targets in Ukraine. And you know what? Obviously, as I already stated, primarily what Western public knows about this conflict, which is primarily from the garbage, which is propaganda from the mainstream media, corporate media in the United States and somewhere in the West, while they obviously do not have the whole picture. Some do, as I already stated. Not all are complete idiots in Washington, D.C. There are some people and a contingent of people who are more or less, how to say it, correct and have enough experience and enough wherewithal, if you wish, intellectual one, to understand what is going on. But yeah, obviously they have access primarily through the alternative media. Granted that alternative media, people like Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson, Glenn Greenwald, and other people, they have a much larger actually impact right now at thinking people. And this is what is, of course, the vibe shift all about, that people begin to think and ask questions. And, of course, it is special military operation, and how the completely Western elites and their corporate propaganda machine, they prove themselves completely incompetent and completely vile. I mean, and absolutely, well, they just basically lie. That's the only thing they know. As I already stated, this is not some kind of the broad brush generalization. Take any bureaucrat in Washington, D.C., in London, or let alone Berlin and Paris. They would know how to run anything. And they primarily are ignorant people. The only thing they know is how to navigate what in apparatus. In Soviet Union, they have been called with very good term, apparatchiks. That's the only thing they know, how to promote themselves within the swamp of the creatures, which are there not to serve the nation. It's all BS. Most of them don't do there to serve the nation. They have no principles, integrity, morals, any kind of ethics. Because, as I already stated, I believe it was Larry Wilkerson who stated that, well, instead of really mass exodus of people in protest of what Israel does from Washington State Department, we have just trickle. The rest are evidently satisfied. And yeah, I know, they love their lives, they love their golf courses, probably some of them have sports cars, and they, you know, who knows. But it is what it is. So, and that's about what I wanted to tell you today about the vibe shift. And yeah, make your own conclusions, guys. And you know what, have a nice rest of your weekend. And those who can, who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee too. Have a nice rest of your weekend, and I talk to you later, guys. Bye bye.